everybody, welcome back to Taji's World of Books and welcome to another book review recommendation video. Hey you guys, so welcome back. I am back. My computer is working. It is fixed. It is fixed as long as my son stays off of it and doesn't spill milk on. When the guy opened it up, he's like, there's milk in here. And I was like, it's my late evenings of me getting going with my milk. I'm just like, and then first thing this morning, he's like, my son is like, I'm gonna play my video game on here. I'm like, no, you're not. Get away from my computer. So all that to say, I am back, you guys, and I am so excited to do this video. I'm gonna try to not go crazy with the spoilers, but I am gonna tell you when the spoiler section begins because I want to give you guys an opportunity to read it. But you guys, it's hot off the press. We gotta talk about it. Diana Gabaldon and Go Tell the Bees That I Am Gone. Look at this chunker. This chunker, and it was so good. It was so good. So I am, can I set it up over here? I never do this. Let's see if I can set it up. Can we set it up like that? Look at that, you guys. What? It's over there. Okay, so I made some notes that I wanted to talk to you about, and I want to talk like a non-spoilery section, and then I'm going to go a little bit into the spoiler section. So more or less, I put up my video for Written in My Own Heart's Blood and An Echo in the Bone together, and mainly because my computer wasn't working, so it just made sense to do those together. So when we left off, or what we saw in Written in My Own Heart's Blood, Jamie was in Scotland coming back with Ginny. He gets on the wrong ship, or he gets on a different ship. The ship that he was supposed to get on left him, thankfully so. Word gets to Lord John that Jamie is on that ship and that ship has sunk and it's gone down and Jamie is dead and Claire is devastated. And Richardson, this guy, Ezekiel Richardson, approaches Lord John and he's like, what is your relationship with, Claire Fraser and blah, 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 blah. And basically pushes John's hand and basically makes John think that he's going to arrest Claire for sedition. And so Lord John, promptly to protect Claire, marries her. And in their grief, right, this is all at the end, in their grief, on a drunken night, they sleep together. And it wasn't something that I think the way that they explained it to Jamie is that Lord John says, we both were fucking you. And that just is not the right thing to say to Jamie because Lord John doesn't know Jamie's history of what happened with, Captain Jack Black. And so all of that went down. And so when Lord John says that, he's like, you freaking sodomite, like you're crazy. Like he just loses his mind. He hits Lord John. He basically gives him over to the revolutionaries. Like he basically is like, you deal with him. I'm headed back. He heads back to go deal with Claire. And on the way back, he throws out his back. He basically is accosted by, not accosted, but he takes up refuge with Sylvia, she is a Quaker. She's a Quaker, and she basically takes care of him, and she tells him the story, and she's really good to them. And the reason I'm saying all this is because this sort of sets up the bees, right? So Sylvia and her 3 daughters take care of Jamie for 2 days, and they are very, very good to them, but she's obviously on hard times because her husband hasn't returned from war, and she's got these 3 babies to take care of, and so she has resorted herself to trading her body for goods and commodity so that she can take care of her girls. And Jamie is like, no, I'm not going to do that, but I will help you. And so he helps her, and he gets back to Claire. And so when he gets back, and Lord John has already told Jamie that he slept with Claire. So this is like sort of all on the heels. And so when he finds Claire, he's like, I'm so glad to see you, but we need to deal with this. And so they have to address that. Okay, so then also at the end of Written in My Own Heart's Blood, they're back at Fraser Ridge, and they are rebuilding their home because of the fire and all of that stuff, because of the matches that Bree created. So they're back at Fraser Ridge, and as they are, have already had it out, and they're like, let it go, we need to move past it, which I have mixed feelings about. They see a wagon coming up the trail, and they're like, who is that? And there's a family on it, but they don't know who it is, and they're trying to figure it out. And lo and behold, it's Roger and Bree, and they are back. And so everybody is back at Fraser Ridge. And so that's how Written in Our Own Hearts, Written in My Own Heart's Blood ends. And so now we are, go tell the bees that I am gone. And so we start. And so Jamie is really still dealing with and struggling with the marriage of Lord John and Claire. And it's almost like that friendship, that long, respectful friendship, but that dance around the attraction that is never discussed that Lord John feels towards Jamie. Jamie doesn't feel it towards Lord John. But that attraction that they dance around, that they never discuss, and this long friendship that they developed has really eroded. He hates John. He hates John for so many reasons because he's not willing to share Claire, and Claire still holds John in affection, and Claire still thinks that Jamie should move past the fact that she married him, because the minute that Jamie comes back, she's like, oh my God, this marriage is no, like, this is wrong, like, this is my husband, I'm there, he's got to let this go. And Jamie is like, I'm sorry, I just cannot. And, you know, in this book, spoiler, in this book, they have it out, Jamie and Claire is like, look, you need to get past this, you need to let it go, it was a mistake. And he was like, well, I forgive you. And she's like, you bastard, how dare you forgive me for what? I did nothing wrong. And in my mind, I'm like, Claire, yes, you did. Yes, you did. You did the same thing to Jamie that you did to Frank. Like, that might be an unpopular opinion. But Claire, like, she looks at it like, I did what I had to do. And this is yet again, if I look at their marriage in a whole, and I understand all the dynamics, but if I look at their marriage in a whole, Claire has been the only one that has slept with somebody outside of the marriage repeatedly. And so, like, and for every time, like, I understand why she did it every time it was needed, right? Like when she slept with the King of France to get Jamie out of prison, she had to, right? And so, like, just like Jamie had to sleep with Jack, Jonathan Wolverton Randolph, right? Like, right, to save each other. So, like, okay. So then she goes back to Frank, and she has an ongoing relationship with Frank. She sleeps with Frank during that time. We don't know how much or how often, but that happens. Then we come back together, and she sleeps with Lord John. So if I go back and I think about Jamie slept with, well, he was raped. Oh, and then there was the rape, right? So we have the rape that Claire experienced. Okay, so Jamie slept with Jack Randall. Jamie slept with the widow. He slept with Leary for a very short period of time because Leary was clearly traumatized. And that was it. So, like, I don't know, like, and it's not a tit for tat, and it should be a tit for tat, but there's a part of me that's like, I still think that the standards that she holds for herself, she holds Jamie to a different standard. She expects Jamie to come clean and tell her about everything, and she expects Jamie to be faithful to her and, like, not be jealous over stuff, and she gets jealous over stuff. So she's a little bit irrational in certain instances. Nobody is to say that their love is not epic and their love is not massive, but, like, after that, like, Claire does what Claire wants to do. Like, for example, in this book, again, spoilers, Lord John writes to Jamie because he wants Brianna to go after William because they think it's important that they meet. And so when Lord John writes, like, she's like, well, I'm going to write to Lord John. And Jamie's like, no, you're not. And she's like, don't tell me what to do. I can write to him if I want to. You don't understand, like, what your husband is saying to you. Like, you don't get to, like, go with an ex, regardless of the circumstances, and, like, and think, like, that it's going to be okay with your husband. So what does she do? She goes to Brianna, and she's like, Brianna, I think that you should write Lord John a letter. You're still going behind your husband's back. And if Jamie would have done that to you and the tables were turned, you would be pissed. You would have been pissed. I don't care. And you would have expected him to like make amends about it. So I'm just like, Claire, I'm pissed at you. So anyway, so again, that's Jamie and Claire. So and again, most of our time is spent with Jamie and Claire. They spend a tremendous amount of time together in these books. They're together all the time. They are getting older, clearly, like their perspectives are changing and the things that they're doing are changing. And that how they look at things are changing. Their mysteries are revealed in this book. We're still dealing with the Revolutionary War. Jamie is having to, again, pick sides. You know, Fraser Ridge is threatened by someone who comes back from previous books. And it's very interesting how this comes about. There are, you know, it's interesting. One of the things that I sort of made a connection in my mind is that everybody, all the travelers, because they're coming across multiple travelers, many different people that have this, and we're discovering like this person's a traveler, and we've seen them through different books, and this is all coming to a culmination. But what's interesting is that all the travelers that they have come across, when they travel through the stones, have an agenda. Whether it be to start the Jacobite Rising, to support the Scottish king, whether it be to prevent the slaughter of the Native American population. We see in this book, when they come across other travelers, that they have an agenda as well. The only travelers that don't have an agenda is Claire, Brianna, Roger, and their family. And it really is about love for them. And it's about being, it's like accidental traveling and then being with the people that you love and sharing experiences and being with your newfound family, rather than trying to change history or make a difference in the historical record of what's happening. So that's how I see that. Frank Randall. Frank Randall is a very, very complicated character. I have said in previous books or previous videos that I don't necessarily think that Frank Randall is a bad guy. I think that Frank Randall did the best that Frank could do. He took his wife back when his wife came back through the stones. He tried to be an honorable husband to her. He was a wonderful father for Brianna. And, you know, now he is written a historical record of the American Revolution. Whether or not you believe that he is communicating with Jamie or saying something to Jamie about what's going to happen, or whether you believe that, as Jamie does, spoiler, in this book, that Frank is like talking to him and trying to get at him and trying to say things. You know, in this instance, I feel like Frank discovers through Reverend Wakefield that Claire goes back through the stones. I think he also discovers that Brianna goes back through the stones, hence why when he raised her, he taught her to shoot and he taught her to prepare herself and to protect herself, because he wanted to protect his daughter. Most important to him. Now, one could argue Claire gets angry at Frank because she realizes that Frank knew that she was going to come back, and she also realizes that Frank knew that Jamie wasn't dead, and Jamie didn't, and Frank didn't tell her. Well, hell no, he didn't, because he didn't want to lose his family. So I don't know. I think if you put yourself in those circumstances, and if it were the tables were turned, would you do that? Would you reveal to the person whom you loved most in the world that the person that they want to be with, that's not you, who lived in the past, is alive? No, he doesn't do that. And so I think that there is this competition and jealousy that's normal, right? That exists between both Jamie and Frank, because the person that they love most, Claire, is between them. And I still like, I'm kind of like, how do you feel about the fact that like Claire still wears both wedding rings? Like, I don't see it as like an allegiance to both of the people that she's married to. Like, I see it as like, again, like Claire doing what Claire wants to do, whether, regardless of how it's gonna hurt somebody or not. Like Jamie says, I'm not gonna take him from you. He doesn't force her to stop wearing the ring. He lets her. But I don't know, like, out of respect for Jamie, wouldn't she want to, especially since she's decided to go back to the past and live in the past? I guess I don't understand why she doesn't keep it. Why she doesn't wear it like this, or like keep it in a safe place. But why does she need to still wear it? Like that I don't understand. And that I'd like to really understand. Because I don't want her to forget about Frank. Like clearly, like Frank was a significant part in Brianna's life. I don't know if at one point she loved Frank, but clearly throughout the marriage she didn't, or she didn't feel that sense of connectedness. So why now? So like I'm a little bit confused about that. So what else do I want to say about Frank? Like more I think is going to be revealed about Frank, and we'll discover more because he's a complicated character, as he should be, and he has a lot of influence over Brianna. And like now that Jamie knows what Frank is like, we're starting to see that Jamie has some really unique powers in and of himself. Like his dreams are prophetic, as well as the fact that I think he sees and communicates with the dead, and he communicates with his ancestors. And why wouldn't it be that he would communicate with Frank as well in some way? So we'll have to see where that goes. I think it's also, I loved William's arc, his story arc. William has to discover who he is, that he is the son of James Fraser. Not only does he have to discover that he is who he is, which we've seen in previous books and up to now, he has to come to terms with it. And how does he come to terms with that? And who helps him to come to terms with that? And how does he deal with the anger and frustration that he has towards Lord John and Jamie for lying to him for all of these years? And how does he take that out on people? And who, as a man, does he become? And who does he want to be? Does he want to be the 9th Earl of Ellesmere? Or does he want to be the bastard son of a Highlander? And how does he use his position and power to be that? So when we saw him early on, he was a spoiled, angry, frustrated, like little Earl, and like now he's no longer that, and he's gone through war, and he's becoming a man, and he's loved and lost and loved again, and you know, so we're seeing his arc and his story develop and his character develop over time. So I really appreciate that. The storyline that I think I find the most interesting and that I appreciate the most is Brianna and Rogers. And it's interesting, right? Because they went back through the stones to be safe in modern times, and they went back because Mandy needed a major surgery, and they go back and she has that, and she gets that surgery, and then they are living at Lollybrook, and life is sort of coming along, but they find that they're not safe in the future. They are not safe because there is a discovery of Jemmy knows where King Louis of France's gold is, and there are travelers and government involvement, and people are out to get them. And so Brianna is attacked, and Jemmy is perceived to be stolen. All this happens in previous books, and so as a result, they're like, we're out, we got to go back, and they're safer in the past than they are in the future, from my estimation, because they have family connections and family ties that can help support them. And if people do come after to harm them, then they can utilize the family and this interwoven connected weave of community and family to support them. I also love the connection between Buck and Buck Mackenzie and Roger in terms of them getting past everything that happened with the hanging. And in previous books, we left Buck with Gillis Duncan, and so we want to see, I hope that that's not left. I hope that they pick up that storyline and we get to hear more about Buck and hear more about where Buck is and what happened with that whole storyline, and that's not kind of left hanging, hopefully. I also really loved the Ian, Rachel, and Jenny story. I love that Jenny gets to have a connection with Ian. I love that Ian is, with Rachel, and they are addressing his Mohawk lineage, that a family is sort of coming together. I won't give too much spoilers away about that, but that was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful storyline. I loved the Quaker conversation. I actually went and did some research about Quakers, and I really wanted to understand their perspective and their philosophy. And so there was a lot about the nonviolence associated with Quakers, and Denzel and Dorothea and that storyline and how that connects to Lord John and Lord John's brother and like that tie-in. So I thought it was really interesting. So you could follow a lot of different, like it's like the main plot is the Fraser and the Fraser dynasty, if you will, and everything down from Lord Lovett, like that whole family tree. But then there also are these sidelines, like Lord John is really significant with his brother. And so I thought that that was really interesting. And as things sort of ended up, I won't talk about how it ended up, but I want to see more about where things go. You know, Claire is coming into her power. We're seeing that Claire has some really unique gifts that are, as she ages, she becomes more and more attuned to those gifts and her healing prowess and her healing powers. We also are seeing that Jemmy and Mandy are also pretty significant in their own right. So it's interesting because Jamie has the gift of talking to spirits and see prophetic dreams. And Jemmy and Mandy have the ability to sense where their loved ones are in time and space, right? And sense color. And Claire has this tremendous healing ability and healing power. And so it hasn't shown, we haven't seen that Brianna has any significant powers. We haven't seen that William has anything. So it'll be really interesting to see how this storyline sort of wraps up. Diana has said that historically, she has said that book 10 is going to be the finale of this. I don't think it's going to be. I think that she's going to continue writing in this and that the story is going to evolve and continue to evolve over time. And it's going to continue to grow and become this great mammoth beast that it is. It is a really lovely, you know, and it's interesting because some stories classify this as paranormal. I don't know that I would classify this as paranormal. Is it women's fiction? Like, where would you sort of put this? But I found this to be really, again, in your reading of this book that is really, really long, it is day-to-day life and it is day-to-day experiences, but nothing massive happens right away. Like, it takes time to build up, but you need to move the players. It's like playing chess, right? Like, you need to move the players around the board and get everybody where they need to be in order for something significant and massive to happen. And she does that, and she does that in a massive way. And so this was a 5 out of 5 star. It was an absolute enjoyable ride. I loved every minute of it. I think I could talk forever about it, but I don't want to talk too much because I don't want to give away too much about the book. I am going to put up that this is a spoilery review, but I tried not to spoil too much because I want it to be, I want to give people the opportunity to read this and to enjoy it for what it is, and then come back and say, let's talk more about this. Let's, you know, dissect and break it down, and I'm happy to do that. So you guys, that is all that I have for today. You know that I upload new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so please like, subscribe, and come hang out with me some more for some more reviews and books and all things book related. Okay, you guys, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.